Okay, with that note, let's dive into the big story now. You just saw some of it at the top. It comes courtesy of several people, but first and foremost, it comes courtesy of these three men, Kenneth, Nick, and Eddie. Our team interviewed them on the streets of Portland, where all three used to live, used to sleep, and used to get high. Now, off the bat, we do want to make this very clear tonight that all three of these men are housed, they are working, and they are sober. But for years, their main drug of choice was meth. Now, we heard their stories because of viewers like Veronica. She emailed us and said, "I've worked in the ER as a mental health therapist for over 15 years, and I have seen the impact that meth has had on causing extreme psychosis, paranoia, and violence." She added, "It is also a huge reason why we have such visible homelessness, even though everyone wants to keep pushing a housing affordability narrative." Veronica then included a link to this article in The Atlantic about what some are calling the new meth. If you haven't seen this, we think it's worth your time. It explains how there's a new version of the drug made basically from cheaper, more toxic ingredients. It's both easier to get and more lethal. And the article talks about the impact of this new, more intense meth on the streets of several cities, including Portland. Now, regular viewers of this show will know that we've touched on that Atlantic piece already. We talked through, PPB stats and stats from the state. We spoke with experts, but this week we want to dive deeper, and that is where Kenneth, Nick, and Eddie come in. For the next 3 nights, you will hear about their experiences on the streets of Portland, their take on this new meth, and what they, with their lived experience, think the city should do to really make a dent in the housing crisis. So tonight, we're going to start with an introduction.
In my opinion, it's just the norm. It's the normal out here.
We set up these interviews through Kenneth Morgan.
Yes, graffiti, definitely.
He's the boss out here.
I'm a bus mall trainer for 5th and 6th Avenue.
His team cleans the streets of downtown Portland, everything from graffiti to needles to feces. The program operates via the nonprofit Central City Concern and predominantly employs people in recovery. That's the case with Morgan.
My name is Nick Hainer.
And his 2 crew members.
Eddie Breedwell.
All 3 men struggled with homelessness for years, and all 3 want people to know it's possible to make it off of Portland streets, even for those lost in the throes of addiction. Breedwell, Haynard, and Morgan all used meth. Morgan even sent us an old mugshot to show the difference. He talked openly about the day he got sober.
So February 27th at 9:07 a.m., I was shot in the chest and left for dead. And, that's where drugs led me. Yeah, I died and they brought me back to life.
The man who shot him, Morgan says, has been arrested. He only thinks about it to stay clean out here.
3 weeks ago, I found an 8-ball of meth on the ground. 4 or 5 days ago, I found a 20 bag of heroin. I mean, it's here. We walk down the street and people shoot up.
Grab the can.
Morgan tells his guys if they feel tempted, walk away and call someone.
It's very triggering.
Nick Haynard's been sober 6 months and takes that advice seriously.
Unfortunately, I'm getting used to it.
How easy are drugs to get in Portland?
Extremely easy. Extremely easy.
Including meth?
Absolutely.
Haynard is from Portland, and like all 3 men, he started using young, teenage years. Also, like all 3, he believes drugs, but more and more, meth, are a huge part of Portland's housing crisis. The city and its police, he says, are not equipped to deal with the depths of this addiction. Stats back that impression up. The Mental Health Addiction Association of Oregon says meth is now the leading cause of drug-related deaths in Portland. And across the state, overdose deaths have increased dramatically over the last 15 years. In 2010, according to the state medical examiner, 43 people died from meth in Oregon. 9 years later, in 2019, that number had jumped to 289.
I was in such a state of paranoia.
Eddie Breedwell overdosed multiple times, but remembers how he felt when using on a sustained basis.
Out there. I mean, like I said, it had me hearing people talking that wasn't even talking, but I could hear them in my head, and they were all cops. I sat in the park for 3 hours, afraid to move off a park bench, because I thought as soon as I got up and started walking that they were going to get me. When I see somebody that collects cans, I give them to him.
Breedwell says he got sober when he got arrested. He got this job shortly after his release. All three men agreed to talk about this on camera because they know there are so many others like them struggling on the streets now. They want to send the message, help exists, and it's possible to pull yourself out of that cycle.
What I do out here is when I see somebody in distress, somebody that's having a hard time with being, addicted to drugs, being homeless, I tell them my story. I let them know, hey, I was just like you, because this company this is a second chance company. They don't frown upon you being a drug addict or you being an ex-con or whatever. They give everybody a chance to get back into the workforce. That's why I love this company so much. I love my job.
Our thanks again, by the way, to both Central City Concern and to Kenneth, Eddie, and Nick for being so brave and so open. Guys, our hats off to you for working so hard on your recovery, and you were frankly awesome during that shoot. And by the way, Nick in the middle just celebrated 6 months sober, he told us, which is fantastic. We're going to hear more from them again tomorrow, including their take on that new meth. At least one of the men told us, yeah, he has absolutely used the new meth. And yes, that drug has taken a far more frightening and deadly turn.